Hello, in this experiment we are going to use two different pH meters to measure the pH level of sodas, and then we are going to neutralize that level with sodium hydroxide. School sponsored for us two pH meters and we will test both of them. We will use 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide and two sodas, Fanta and Coca-Cola. As I said previously, school has given us the new pH meters and we will test them. First of all, we need to set up our workspace. First thing is that we will attach the holder for pH meter on burette. And let's start our experiment with Fanta. We will do the same experiment with Coca-Cola later, so it will be the same with cola. The first step in the experiment is to measure exactly 10 milliliters of soda and pour it in different container. In our case, we will use measuring pipette to measure 10 milliliters of soda. As you can see in this clip, Fanta is emitting CO2, which is bad for the measurements. Okay, then let's unpack the first pH meter. As you can see in this clip, the pH meter sensor is inside a buffer liquid, which is used to calibrate itself, as the liquid inside it is at neutral pH, which is 7.0. So we put the pH meter in the buffer liquid, we turn on the pH meter and press calibrate button to calibrate it. As you can see here, it shows 7.0. Now we can check the pH level of Fanta. As you can see, pH meter shows that the pH in Fanta is around 3.4. which is really sour. For comparison, human stomach's pH level is around 1 to 2. Now we can pour the sodium hydroxide into the burette. Then we open burette for sodium hydroxide to pour out a little bit, to get it to needed amount in burette. We need to make sure that sodium hydroxide's lower part of bubble is at marking 0 milliliters in burette. And now we can put the container with Fanta in the burette and put a pH meter in holder. And just make sure that pH meter sensor is inside the liquid. And now we can open a burette a little bit for sodium hydroxide to start dropping little drops. While sodium hydroxide is dripping, we stir the container with soda. Now we can see on the pH meter that pH level is rising. Now we need to pour sodium hydroxide inside the soda to neutralize it to pH level 7.0. Now this experiment did not go well for us, we messed up somewhere, but we will try again with Coca-Cola. After experiment, remember to clean up after yourself, so take out the pH meter from holder and clean it by water. After that, put the buffer liquid back on the pH sensor. For the second experiment, we are gonna use the soda Coca-Cola. Once again, we need to refill the burette with 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide. Reduce the sodium hydroxide level to 0 milliliters in burette, so that the lower part of this bubble is at marking 0. And second pH meter we are going to use is a little bit more modern, and it will use the application on mobile device. Just like previous pH meter, this one has buffer liquid, and we just unscrew it and take it off the pH meter. Remember to not accidentally spill this liquid. And once again we attach this pH meter to the holder. Now we can open this application, turn on the pH meter, and inside the application we click on Bluetooth icon, and then we should see the pH meter under wireless devices. We click on that and it will connect to it. When it's connected, it will show the pH level on the screen. And just like with Fanta, Coca-Cola emits CO2, which will make the measurements incorrect. We can remove CO2 by stirring it. And now we can get the clean Coca-Cola without it emitting CO2. Once again we take the 10 milliliters of soda and pour it in different container. Now for pH meter to start reading, we press on start button on the application and we immediately see on the screen the pH level. As you can see, this pH meter is much more accurate and it shows everything immediately on the screen, which makes it easier to use in experiments like this. In this experiment we pour sodium hydroxide till it gets back to neutral pH level, which is 7.0, and then we can know the value of sodium hydroxide from burette. After our experiment has concluded, we need to take everything apart and clean. So we take the pH meter out of its holder and clean it with water. Then we carefully put the buffer liquid back on the pH meter. We put it so far that the sensor is inside it. Then we pour out the sodium hydroxide from burette. Then we clean all the used containers. Thank you for watching this experiment.